Hey everyone, and welcome to week 32. My pants are getting tighter, my calves are getting tighter, but before we get into how I'm doing this week, I said I wanted to share with you of how my second labor and delivery story went, so let's get into that. So you may have heard that every story is different, even for the same woman, and I can really attest for that, and I'm really curious as to how my third one's gonna go, because Hannah and Zeke were completely different. Hannah went like clockwork, thankfully, for my first baby, as to like the timing of the contractions and how things were gonna go. It was like went just as the book as I took the class said it would go, and it was great. But with Zeke, my contractions had started, and I knew they were real contractions, or they were stronger than Braxton Hicks, but they were kind of all over the place. They never got regular. And I even called the hospital, I think 3 times, just saying, you know, I think I'm in real labor, but my contractions are coming like every 3 minutes to every minute to every 5 minutes to every 6 minutes. And so the first 2 times that I called, they said, why don't you walk around or lay down or go soak in the tub or do something and try to just to stop the contractions and see what's going on. So I did what the nurses said, and I went and soaked in the tub, and my contractions actually became regular and slowed down and were actually kind of working like clockwork. But as soon as I got out of the tub, they were right back on top of each other, just going crazy and random again. So finally, that third time I called, they were like, you can come in if you want to, but we might have to send you home. And I was like, I'll take the risk. It was a Wednesday evening, so Tim had to go to the church and do youth group, and I was kind of thankful that it was a Wednesday evening because Hannah was around the house and I really needed him to take her to the nursery because I just knew that I could not be too kind to her through the contractions if she needed anything. They were so painful, I would not be able to tend to her while I was in pain trying to breathe through these contractions. So I actually labored at home by myself through these contractions, and for going by what the nurses had said, we didn't know for sure that it was true labor, so we figured, well, that would be okay. And honestly, I think I actually did pretty good laboring by myself because I didn't have somebody else there that I can blame the pain on or get frustrated at. It was just like, all right, I'm in this, I'm gonna do this, we're gonna get through it. So it was just kind of all myself, like I had to do my own strength and got through it, and it was actually kind of nice. But by the time Tim had got home from youth group, or actually I think I probably told him that I just told the doctor's office and they said, you can come in if you want. And so I told him, we're gonna go in because they were so intense and they were coming pretty quickly, even though they were so sporadic. Like I would even go like 3 minutes to 1 minute at that point, to sometimes it would maybe go to 5 minutes. And I was just like, yeah, let's just go in and see what's going on because this just doesn't seem like this is a Braxton Hicks contraction. So we had some friends come over and pick up Hannah. Tim and I got all our stuff in the car, got Hannah loaded up for the night to go to our friend's house. And she was actually really ecstatic about it. And I'll put a link below of the video of sending her off to our friends. And she was just super excited. It was like 10:30 at night, I think, when she was going, and way past her bedtime, but she did not care. She was like, woohoo, I'm gonna go party with all these people that I love. It was really cute. And so we went over to the hospital. They actually had just a little temporary room because they figured they were going to check me and send me back home. But as soon as I got into the room, I had to go to the bathroom, of course. I'm like peeing every few minutes it seemed like, was being in active labor. Went into the bathroom, had a contraction while I was in there, came back out. The nurse was like, that sounded a little bit more serious than we were thinking, so let's go ahead and take you into a regular room. So we got into the regular room, I got checked, and the nurse got right to work on her paperwork immediately because she was supposed to be gone at, I think, midnight that night or something, and she knew that she needed to get all that paperwork done before she left because this baby was coming. And so I think it was about 11 whenever we got to the hospital. And immediately they just started getting prepped and everything, just ready for this baby to come any minute. And I had gone into this labor and delivery knowing that I wanted an epidural. Because with Hannah, if you had seen her video, if you haven't, you can click here. And the recovery process after Hannah's without the epidural for me was really tough because I just could not relax during that labor and delivery. So I went in there knowing like I want an epidural. But because they were so worried of how soon that Zeke was going to be born, my doctor had just made it in, and the first thing she talked to me about was, we may have to talk about some alternate things because we might not be able to get the anesthesiologist in here in time to give you an epidural before this baby's born. And I was just like, no, like there's no option. We're not talking any other way. Like I want an epidural because I know how painful it was when Hannah was born, and the recovery for me was just ridiculous. I was way too sore. I want an epidural. And thankfully, before our conversation was even over, the anesthesiologist walked in to save the day for me. And the deal that was with that was it was such a small hospital. They didn't have an anesthesiologist like there all the time. It was just somebody that was on call. And so if they were able to come in time to give you the epidural, you could get one. If not, then you had to talk about those alternative methods that my doctor wanted to talk to me about. So I was really thankful that I was able to get the epidural. I actually, like whenever they were putting the needle in my back, I think at first I felt like my toes go numb or something, and then they moved it around and got it into the right spot. It didn't hurt as much as I expected, I guess. Like I hate shots anyways. I think shots in the arm hurt. And so I felt like it was pretty much the same kind of deal. And at that point, with how strong the contractions were, I didn't care. I just wanted the epidural, get it in, let me relax. And I think Tim was actually kind of a little bored with this labor and delivery because it wasn't so intense with the epidural for me. And I was able to actually relax, and I could have a conversation, and I wasn't like falling asleep because of other medicines that they had given me previously with Hannah. And so it was actually just like a lot more calm of a deal. The part that I do regret about the epidural though was that when it came to pushing, that was more intense because the epidural helped with the contractions like the only way I really knew is like looking over at the screen and being like, oh, there's a contraction about to come. And I could like feel my stomach tightening, but there was no pain with it, which was wonderful. But when it came to pushing, that part with Hannah was more of a relief because the contractions were hurting so badly. The pushing part seemed a whole lot easier. And so with Zeke, with the contractions not being the issue, the pushing part was the harder part of the birth. So like I said, we made it in there to the hospital around 11, and at about 11:55, they told me that I could start pushing. And I was like, wait a second, no! Because at that hospital, it was like 12:01 is whenever it started, like the next day. And I wanted to get as long of a stay in the hospital as I could. So I was like, no, we're gonna wait just a few more minutes so I can have my extra night stay in the hospital, because that hospital was wonderful, and I knew the nurses that were there, and we could send our child to the nursery during the night so I could get some rest, like actually good solid rest, instead of do the rooming in. And so I just wanted to take advantage of that as much as possible. And so just waited a few more minutes, and then finally, I think at midnight was when I was like, all right, let's get this baby here. So Zeke was born, and he was an amazing little boy. I think at one point they did have to stop. They had told me to stop pushing at 1 second. And I found out later that Tim had said that the umbilical cord was wrapped around Zeke's neck. And so they had me stop pushing because if I had pushed him all the way out, it could have choked him. And so they had me stop a little bit while the doctor unwrapped the umbilical cord around his neck, and everything was great. He was very healthy. Born at 7 pounds, 9 ounces, and was, I think, 20 1/4 inches long, and just the most beautiful little boy ever. I was so excited to be able to hold him in my arms, and this time it was a little bit more reality with the second child, that we were like actually had the baby in our hands, but the miracle of just the born child and just being able to hold them for the first time is just, I don't know, it's a miracle. It's a beautiful thing, and I just absolutely love it. All right, so back to 32 weeks with this present baby little girl. We actually have been talking about names lately. We don't have the name quite yet, but every time we talk about it, I get a little bit more excited because I feel like we're getting there. And I would actually be okay if we had a couple names to choose from when she's born and get to see her and decide who she is. But Tim would kind of rather go ahead and have the name set and say, this is who our girl's going to be and this is why we want to name her this. So we'll see. 8 more weeks. Hopefully she doesn't come early and then we'll be okay with giving her a name. So at 32 weeks, she is weighing in at 3.75 pounds, and I just feel a whole lot bigger this week. My pants haven't been fitting as well as they have been, and my calves have actually started almost cramping. The other night, I actually had a cramp almost had a Charlie horse and was able to stop it, and here's a little bit of what I had to tell you about that. So earlier this week, I had my almost first Charlie horse during the night. I was actually lucky that I was able to catch it before. Like, I felt my muscles starting to tighten up and I was able to flex my foot and stretch my muscle out before it went full blown. But since then, my left calf muscle has just been tight for the last 2 days. And so tonight I had to go grocery shopping. And I've always heard that bananas have a lot of potassium in them, but I was wondering, what else is there? What else should I be adding to my diet that has potassium and I can get rid of these muscle cramps? Because we were actually this weekend at a lodge that had an indoor water park, and I was able to go and sit and put my feet in, my calves in to the hot water, and that felt good, but as soon as I got out of the water, they were aching again. So I went tonight, and while I was out of the store, I looked up online, what other foods have high potassium, and I just looked at the first website that popped up. I don't know, how credible it is, but bananas were, number 10 on the list of foods with the most potassium, and so I got some of the other foods that were listed on there, one of them being white beans. So I grabbed a bag of Great Northern beans, and tomorrow night I'm doing taco salad, and I was going to add beans anyway since we're having company over to kind of just I don't know, add to what you can put on it and make it go further. And so instead of doing black beans, I'm going to do some Great Northern beans. Hopefully it'll taste good. If you put salsa and sour cream and everything on it, I think it'll be fine. So I'm going to get those soaking overnight so I can have those for dinner tomorrow. And then I was kind of hoping and was really glad to see that on the list was avocados, because I really like avocados and no one else in my family really does, and we're having company, so I'm hoping some of them will like it. But otherwise, I'm going to be doing lots of salads with avocados, because another thing that was on the list was greens, and spinach being one of the most ones. So I already had some salad. I didn't have any spinach though, so I'm adding spinach to my salads. And what else did I get? Dried apricots have potassium in them as well, so that'll be a little snack over the next few days. And I'm just going to try to really up my potassium and hopefully get this leg to stop cramping, because it's just a constant, I'm constantly just stretching out my calf, putting it up against the wall, stretching it out, doing whatever I can just to relieve some of the tension that it's giving me. So hopefully this works. Another food high in potassium that I forgot to tell you that I got was potatoes. The website that I had found said that potatoes with skin on it is really good as well for potassium intake for you. So I'm just trying to load up on as much potassium as I can this next week and get rid of these leg tightness. I don't know what it is. It's almost a Charlie horse. It's just my calf is just tight all the time, and it's really annoying. And I just don't want that cramp to happen in the middle of the night, because I know with Hannah and Zeke both, there were several nights where I woke up and was hitting Tim to try to wake him up so he could massage my calf, because I could not get rid of it on my own. So I already told you that my pants aren't fitting as well, so I don't know if my bump has actually grown this last week or not, or what is going on, but you can take a look for yourself, see what you think. 32 weeks, only 8 more weeks left. I can't believe it. It's so exciting. 2 months, less than 2 months she's going to be here. And the holidays are coming, and I was able to put some meals in the freezer, and we're getting ready to have company and hopefully travel for Christmas. So I feel like it's going to be a very busy time coming up before this baby girl gets here. And I haven't started on her baby quilt, and I want to get it to the stage to where I just have to hand sew the binding onto it before we go for Christmas, which means I've got to do that like this week, next week. I don't know. I haven't even looked at the calendar. I don't even know where we are in the month. So, but yeah, that's what's going on. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to hanging out with you next week and giving you next week's update for 33 weeks. Bye.